DBS community, welcome back to another video with God Chris. Today we're going to be doing the ultimate set 20 leader tier list. I have about 64 leaders here, quite a bit actually. And we're going to rate these and kind of see where we can fit these in what could potentially be meta relevant, what might not be. Now, I know a lot of us are a little tired of this format because it seems we are back into our pre-Nats format with a few minor changes. However, I think there are a lot of decks that could potentially be relevant. There's a lot of very good decks that are not just the typical ones that we know of. Now, we'll break them down here, and of course, just remember this is just my opinion. You don't have to agree with anything I say in this video. That's okay. You don't have to. But just remember, this is just for my opinion and just, you know, wanting to put some content out there for you guys. You guys can check it out. Maybe cause some conversations. That's the whole point of these videos. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. That's all that fun stuff there. So we have 5 tier levels here. We'll start with the S tier, which are going to be high ceiling for this current meta. There's some decks I'm sure you probably or think that are going to be there. Those will probably be there. Also some other ones you might not think so. A tier. These are going to be decks that are going to be meta. These are decks that have already been meta, and these are decks that, you know, we will probably see, you know, throughout the year, whether it's online events, you know, store championships, regionals, whatever, right? B tier. These are decks that could be meta in theory, and I'll try to give as much reasoning as to why that is. There's a lot of decks that I think could be meta in this next set, with just being, you know, just honest across the board with stuff. But I do think there are some decks that just need to have some form of testing, and maybe if someone wants to actually crack this leader open, see if they can figure out something out with it. I think there's a lot of potential in this current format. C tier, we have casual decks. These are decks that people just really like to play. They might not be the best. They might be missing some sort of piece, whether it's a piece that's been banned, whether it's, you know, they're missing some form of promo, or just something support-wise helps their curve out earlier, or just on the turn that they're supposed to. And then we have D tier, where these are just decks that have no impact in the format whatsoever. I try not to pick a lot of these because I don't think there's any point in me picking a bunch of decks that are D tier just to put them in the video and trash on them. That doesn't really make much sense. But I wanted to pick out as many leaders as I possibly could. And I mixed them up so they're not all, you know, color-coded. But I picked as many leaders as I could that have either A, topped an event last year, won an event last year, or people are really talking about them in some way. So we'll start here at the front here, and I had to start with my boy Sinzino, Milson, whatever you guys want to call him. This is the deck, I believe, outside of myself, which I think I topped 2 events with this deck last year. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 other people, one over in the EU, and like 2 other people in the US who topped with this deck. It is very good in the current format. This deck realistically can beat most of the meta decks in the game. Decks that go really long and play like Beerus, even Crimson when it was playing the ramp stuff. Sin sort of struggles against any deck that plays Turning the Tide, realistically. However, other decks, Sin can beat most decks in the meta. Sin can beat Red Sin. Sin can beat Gogeta. Sin could beat Crimson. So there's not a lot that, you know, Sin wasn't able to do, and Green's not very popular right now, nor is it good. So Sin doesn't really have much of a problem with that kind of stuff. I think Sin would be a deck. I'm going to fight my ambitions to put this as an S tier because most people would not agree with me. That's okay. I think this is an A tier deck. Again, the biggest problem with this particular deck is that people will not play the deck. There is way too much text on these cards. DBS players, we do not read cards, and myself included. So no one's really going to play this deck too much. I think if people did, though, this deck got a huge buff because now there's no Boo Unison, or realistically there's no Boo Unison to worry about with dealing with some of your attackers and having to have another, you know, double strike swing to deal with. But also, there's no God Ceiling. We don't have to worry about Oceanus getting bounced. We don't have to worry about our Smoke Dragon getting bounced back. Don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. So Sin, like I said, in my opinion, A tier deck. Next we have Majin Vegeta. This is another deck that I think will be A tier. This deck here is very good. Dare I say it might be the best yellow deck in the game. I'm not going to say that, but it could be. It is probably fighting right now for that second slot, and it could potentially be the best yellow deck in the game. We just need to see some data, realistically, from this. This leader just came out as a starter deck for set 20. tons of power, incredibly tons of aggro. This deck actually can be surprisingly aggro on turn 2, turn 3, and has a complete board wipe ignoring barrier. That's incredible. It's a very, very good leader. I think this is something that people are going to be playing for a while. It's got Vegeta on it. It's going to be a good deck. I'm actually going to put it above Sin Xeno because it is a yellow deck, and Sin sometimes struggles with yellow decks. So, next is going to be Android 13. This is going to be a deck I'm actually going to put in... what the hell? Yeah, we'll put it in A tier as well. We'll put it in A tier. So this deck did end up topping the last event that we had. I think this deck in a more red-focused meta, I think this deck actually beats the two best red decks in the game, which is Gogeta and Sin, depending on obviously pilot-wise and stuff. But I do think this deck does a very good job against both of those. This deck does struggle against decks that have tons of defense, so we saw Bulma playing against this deck. Android 13 really didn't have much answer to the Baby Unison just stealing everything. But other decks that aren't, you know, Bulma, this deck actually probably does very well against. Being able to swing, what, 3 times for 30 double strike on turn 3, that's quite a lot of damage, and most decks can't really deal with that unless they're teching for it. So we're going to put it at A tier. That's probably a good spot for it right now. And as we go through, we might adjust a few things as we see accordingly. Next is Android 16. I'm actually going to put Android 16 in... we'll put it as a casual deck. So Android 16 lost one of the biggest tools as to why Android 16 I feel like was good, which was the Boo Unison. That's really the only way that this deck was able to draw cards, right? You weren't playing, you know, you got an extra energy every turn, which helped you with your arrival stuff. But also you were able to get a draw, and then you had a card that could stop two attacks, right? Incredible. That was what you ramped into. That was the turn that you would awaken, essentially. You would awaken on turn 3 with 4 energy, and you would slam down a Boo, and you'd be set for most of the game. However, with Boo being limited to 1 now, this deck took a huge hit in what it can do. I'm sure, you know, the gentleman who, you know, has done very well with this deck over the past, you know, year and a half now, almost, you know, going on, this will be 2 years. I'm sure if he's playing the deck again, he'll find a way to make it work. But right now, the deck has taken a huge step back. You can't rely on all of your arrival targets to actually do things because you don't have that wall to rely on, which was your Boo Unison. So I think it's a casual deck until we get another good Blue Unison, if we ever get another Blue good Unison. Next we have Warriors of Universe 7. This is the new Invoker deck. I think this is actually an S tier deck, quite frankly. I think Invoker, this deck is going to do very well. Has an incredibly high ceiling being an Invoker deck, and this deck has way more combat tricks than the old Invoker. Is it as good as the old Invoker? The leader itself, probably not, but this leader does have a lot of good tools, and you have just a huge array of Invokers to play with now, including 2 new arrival targets. This deck is going to be very good, so it's definitely going to be S tier in my opinion. Alright, next we have Android 18. This deck is, I think, will be meta relevant. This is going to be a good blue deck with Crimson Band, which was kind of what this leader needed to be playable. If Crimson was not banned, as good as this leader, the archetype actually is, people probably wouldn't have played with it that much. They would have experimented with it, and then when it came time for big events, people probably would have just flocked to Crimson, because why wouldn't you, you know, flock to Crimson? Good deck, you turn a lot of stuff sideways, good leader synergy, good Z battle card synergy. I think it's going to be a good deck. We'll probably put it above Android 13, because Android 18 has access to Dirty Burst. Next we have Android 21. So I am going to put Android 21 in B tier. I would say I'm a pretty big critic of this deck. I don't think this deck is very good. I think it's very overrated for a multitude of reasons. The biggest is that this deck suffers really bad to aggro, and not being able to play Beerus Ball on your early turns, it's going to make you take a lot of damage, essentially. You're not going to be able to play a lot of stuff, and your whole deck is you know, 10k, you know, 1 energy cost, right? That makes it so you're not really playing things on your opponent's turn unless you're playing against a blue deck. This is another big thing, is that the best blue deck in the game did get banned. How many people are going to be flocking to blue decks? Probably not that many. So if you're not playing a blue deck, this deck can't really use all of your opponent's battle cards for energy. You're having to really rely on your own. And if you're tapping 2 or 3 for a battle card on your turn and not getting any energy back, now you have to relying on D-Magic and other things to really worry about it. People are just gonna, tech in counterplays for your Android 13 or your Android 17. They're gonna tech in Silver Bullets. They're gonna tech in the Cunning cards, and now you're losing a lot of that value that you would normally have. The 8-drop, right? If someone plays 1 Cunning card against the 8-drop, your 8-drop essentially becomes useless because you're gonna tap, 5 for it. You're going to pass turn, you're not going to be able to restand 5 energy, and now you're not going to be able to do anything, right? So I think in theory, people are going to think it's a good deck. With the Boo hit, this deck just continues to lose value. People are going to play it because people are hyped on Android 21, but I don't think this is going to be a good deck. I'm actually pretty, honestly, I think I'm going to put it down here. Yeah, I think I'm going to put it down here. I just don't think it's very good. I've done a little testing against it, but I've just gone through numerous deck deck building and going over test hands. It just doesn't feel that good. The cards are very powerful, but I just think in the current state of the game, it's going to get just rolled over by a lot of decks. If Crimson was still alive in the meta, this deck would probably be A tier because you would have almost probably a third of your matchups would be against a blue deck, and then you would be able to utilize all of their energy. Now, the asterisk on this is that if everyone's playing blue decks, everyone's playing Gamma and Beerus, all the other kind of blue decks, this deck will probably end up being like in most people's in most content creators A or B tier, but we're gonna say C tier. That's where I'm gonna put it. Now, the other Android 21 leader, the Field Spell 21, I think this deck is way better than this. For one, this deck can play all the stuff that this deck can. This deck can draw without attacking. This deck restands an energy every turn based off of its own leader. And you don't have to play Boo anymore. You can play 1 Boo, but you can play the Android 13 Unison and still have access to your counterplay. Yes, you can do the same thing in this deck, but this deck has a built-in floodgate for it, which makes it just incredibly good. So I think Android 21 Malevolence Unbound is going to be a better blue deck. Because again, you can play all of the new Android 21 stuff, including the Secret Rare, as well as all of the old Android 21 stuff, which is the big Android 17 and 18 boss monster. You have the new Android 21 boss monster. You have the Secret Rare. Definitely the better Android 21 deck to play would be the old Field Spell leader. Next we have the Android 17 leader. This leader has never seen play. I'm going to put it in B tier. So this deck is a blue Invoker deck, essentially. You can pitch extra cards to draw on the front side. You can give itself Double Strike and crit. And you can use the We Are Universe 7 card and continue to grab it back, right? This is a very cool leader. I hope someone builds a deck with this and does well, because this leader could be very, very good. It doesn't have any of the Warriors of Universe 7 traits and stuff like that, so you can't use any of that stuff, but it is a blue Invoker leader, right? You have access to D-Magic. That's very important. So I think this leader could be good. People probably won't play it because of the new Android 17 leader, but it is something in theory that could be potentially good. Next we have the Ape Coup. I think this is a casual deck. This is a very consistent deck, right? It's very fair. Nothing bad about it. Nothing great about it. The archetype's solid. Everything has barrier. It's really cool, but it doesn't have the killing potential. And without Champa now, you are now losing the #1 win condition for yellow decks. And if yellow decks don't have a better win condition than that, they're going to falter. I think this deck is very average. It's very fun for some people. It's just very fair. So like I said, not a great deck. It's going to go in C tier. It is what it is. Next is Beerus. So Beerus I'm going to put in... So we're going to put it in B tier. This deck obviously got 4th at Worlds, right? This is a very good deck. People are going to be, very, very, very interested in playing this leader again, I'm sure, because 6-drop Vegeta didn't get hit. Turning the Tide didn't get hit, right? However, Boo is gone. So with Boo gone, you now have to play things like Raid of the Rumble. Play things like Go On Baby's Minion, which you were kind of already playing, but you have to now keep up energy on your turn 4. You can't just tap out. You're not going to have the defense for it because you don't have the Boo. You have 1 Boo, but if you don't see that Boo, things change. So I'm going to put it in B tier because I'm sure someone's going to figure out how to change the defense of the deck and make it work. But I'm going to put it in B tier because with the loss of Boo, this deck does definitely take a hit. And because now we're going back into a red format with Gogeta and Sin, I don't think this deck's going to do as well. B tier for Beerus. Next we have AOD. AOD should be an A tier deck. I think this deck has a ton of viability in the current format. We had just started getting, you know, I think someone ended up topping with AOD in the last event, or if not, they were at top tables at one point. I mean, this deck just continues to get support, right? The 2 new dash pack cards are amazing, because we're gonna probably at least migrate back to somewhat of a mid-range aggro meta. This deck's going to be viable. Again, you're playing against a control deck that can't stop the aggro that you're going to put on with this deck. It's going to do well. Also can play Yellow Slug, which is another reason why this deck could be good. We have Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. This blue deck here is very interesting. So we're going to put this blue deck in B tier. This blue deck has a very interesting ability of how to restand energy by taking a card from your energy and putting it back down. It's almost like Gamma-like, right? Has a very powerful 10-drop, which can board wipe your opponent. Does not go through barrier, but can board wipe your opponent. You mix that 10-drop with Beast Gohan Secret Rare, you can probably kill somebody. I think on turn 3 or turn 4, whenever you can play the boss monster. Doesn't rely on Boo Unison. It's a good blue deck. It doesn't draw on the front side, which is probably the hardest part about the deck. But you're going to be on the front side for maybe a turn, if that. So I think Gohan could potentially be a strong meta-relevant deck in the blue archetype. Again, we'll have to see if people play it. That's going to be the theme of a lot of these decks that are going to be in B tier. In theory, these decks could be very good, but if nobody plays them, we'll never find out. So, SS2 Trunks. I'm going to put Trunks in A tier. I think Trunks can do well. Trunks can search out any blue card. It can restand energy every turn. That's generally the solid of mechanic of what you need to be a good blue deck. With Crimson gone, there's a huge spot open now for what blue deck is going to end up taking control over it. People already started testing Trunks before Crimson got banned because they were just expecting Crimson to get banned. I think Trunks will end up replacing it. Is it better than Crimson? Of course not. But it will probably end up topping an event if people end up playing it. I think it's probably the best blue Saiyan leader left. Maybe. It's a very good deck, I think. So I've put it a few times. It seems to do very, very well. I think you end up playing Baby Unison in this deck, so you don't even have to worry about playing Boo. You'd probably still play Boo as a one-of, but I think your main focus is Baby Unison. Broly Swap. We'll put Broly Swap in casual. No one plays this deck. People will pop up with it every now and then. It's just not the red deck of choice anymore. At some point, when Broly gets a Z leader, and I'm sure it will get a Z leader at some point, this leader will probably end up being meta relevant again. It's just going to take one card to do it, and it's probably going to end up being a Z leader. Now, the new champ card that's coming out is a Broly BR. I think you can play it off the 1 or the 3 drop. I'm pretty sure. And you can give it Overlord, and you can give it. It's a servant, so you can give your leader Overlord. So you can bomb deck the draw the card. So that might end up making this deck playable. But I think that red card is just better in other red decks. So we'll probably see that instead. Bulma. So Bulma did just win the last regional. However, I'm gonna put Bulma back here in the red section here. Yeah, I'll go like that. So Bulma's going to be a good deck. With Secret ID coming off the ban list, I think that hurts Bulma just enough to not make her S tier. And really only one person's going to play this deck. It's hard for a deck to be S tier if only one person plays it. So again, Bulma. Good. It's going to be a deck that people might play every now and then. But Bulma is going to be A tier. Majin Buu, I think it's going to have 0 impact in the meta. I think the Buu cards will have impact in the meta more than the actual leader will. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this leader because I did that in my set 20 leader video tier list. So you guys can go check that out if you guys want to see my opinion on Majin Buu. We got Cell. Cell will be a... we'll put Cell in... I don't know. So we're going to put Cell in B tier. So I think Cell could be a very good deck. I think it could be the best green deck in the game, which is not saying much because green is not very good, but this deck could be very good. Playing against the problem with Cell is that Cell does not have good red matchups. Cell wasn't very good against U7. It's not very good against Sin, and it's definitely not good against Gogeta. You have to play really bad cards to get around some stuff. Just not great. However, if you can get Perfect Force off, you could probably just win the game off of that. Being able to discard your entire opponent's hand, whether it's Sin, whether it was Crimson at the time, whether it's Gogeta, you're going to be able to just remove all of their options, right? And that's a very powerful skill to have, and this deck has access to that. So I definitely think it could be meta. Well, Cell's a very popular character. Again, it's kind of the same thing with Broly. We'll probably end up getting a Z leader for this deck, and we might see the leader just pop off then. Because right now, Green by itself doesn't have a great Z deck, and I think if we get some sort of Z leader support for some of these decks, they're going to end up popping off, and we're going to see some pretty crazy stuff going on. Next, we have the two coolers. We have the Cooler Mill and the Unison Cooler. Cooler Mill, we're going to put in C tier. We're put it actually behind all these decks here. It's an Arrival deck that just kind of runs out of steam. It doesn't mill very fast. Doesn't mill as fast as Sin or even Janempa. And it's just an okay deck. And it hasn't really ever done anything. I think it's maybe topped a few times since it's come out. But it's just kind of an okay deck. The engine of the deck is very good, but the deck just doesn't really do anything. It just gets outvalued and out-tempoed by other decks. Cooler Unison is going to be an A. I'm going to put Cooler over here in A. We'll put it actually above... Put it right here. Yeah. I think Cooler is a fantastic green deck. It's weird because this deck does have all the tools you would need to beat most decks. Has very good matchups against yellow because Mecha Robotic Riposte doesn't really affect this deck too much. But loses really hard to red. Again, because of Dormant, you have to run Dormant, and it's just Dormant's not really good into red. So as long as we have Gogeta and Sin being the best decks, two of the best decks in the game, this deck will never be able to probably win an event unless they just miss every single Gogeta and Sin player, which potentially could happen. But it is a meta deck. I think it is a meta deck. I think people will play it, and you'll see it probably topping some events, whether it's at the bottom, or kind of in the middle. But I don't think it will. I don't think it will win an event, especially in this current format. It just will not win an event with Gogeta and Sin in the format. Next, we have Cumber. I am going to put Cumber in S tier. It will be probably kind of in the middle of the pack of S tier, but it is an S tier deck. This deck has so much draw power, as from a black deck. It is very surprisingly good. Been playing this deck for probably since release. Outside of a few mishaps, this deck feels unbeatable at times. You can combo 100k pretty easily, whether that's on offense or defense. You can get out of most attacks. And this deck will just continue to get support because it's a black Saiyan, and that's generally what black gets supported for, is either Demon Realm Race or Saiyans, and Saiyans definitely get the bulk of it. So this deck is going to be good for a while. It's got a very good Z leader. Being able to bottom deck your opponent's cards, that rule changing make this deck even better. I think Cumber is going to be very good. I think the community, at least some of the people in the community, are kind of going around, turning the leaf to Cumber being a good deck. Definitely think it's going to be meta. Will it win an event? Who knows? Definitely will see it topping in some of these events though. Mechigabora. This is the deck that will have zero impact on the meta. Unfortunately, it's just not good. Not having a secondary Awakening condition and having to have the 7 balls in the drop is just very bad in an aggro format. We definitely need some sort of Z leader or another battle card that can extend the Awaken for Mechigabora, so that way they can go and actually gain value. Till that happens, is going to be D tier. Finn, kind of the same thing. Finn is just not a very good deck. It's pretty average. We're not in a big Unison format right now, so that part's not very good. Got some support from the last tournament kit that came out before the set 20, which is good. It's just still not. It's just not there. I don't know what it's missing. Probably more Mira and Toa support at some point. So we'll see. It could be very good in the future. Who knows? But right now, it's going to have zero impact on the meta. We have Gamma. Gamma is definitely going to be a meta deck. It might be the best deck in the format. This deck has a very good matchup against blue, very good matchup against red. Yellow matchup is kind of meh. This deck probably should have won Worlds. Obviously, there was some mistakes on the gentleman who was playing Gamma, but he played great other than that, and was very close to winning. And I think Gamma will probably be the best deck in the format for now. It's a very, very good deck. And anytime we got some Android support, that stuff works in Gamma. So we're going to see Gamma probably for a very, very long time. So, and don't be surprised if Gamma gets a Z leader here in the next few sets. We have Gogeta. Gogeta is going to be a casual deck. All these aggro decks here, like this and Broly, people are going to play them just because they're used to playing them. They might catch people off guard, but the hit to Marvelous Might just makes this deck just lose so much power. So if we ever get a reprint of it, or if they pick up the ban list, this deck might be good again. But it's gonna be C tier. Super Saiyan 4 Son Goku. I would actually put Son Goku in the meta picture. This deck is surprisingly good. Once you cut out some of the bad cards in the archetype, this deck actually can do quite a bit of hand destruction and just play stuff for very, very, very cheap. It's just a very good, just generic, green Saiyan leader, and that's very good. I would actually put this probably above Trunks, probably above AOD. That's probably a good spot for it. Next is Explosive Power Son Goku. This is a Universe 7 Goku leader. I'm going to put this in B tier. I think this deck could be decent. Any of these Warrior Universe 7 decks, which actually I believe I have another one here, and the Red Gohan. So all of these are Warriors of Universe 7, and I think all of these can be, practiced at some point. I think people might find that these decks are pretty good. Having that Universe of 7 trait means you can play anything from the new starter deck, which is this Gohan here. I think all of these will have pretty interesting, could have a interesting place in the format if people, decide to play them, or if people just test them out. I think these leaders could be pretty good. This Gohan might be a little bit better. The Goku might be a little bit better than the Gohan because you're not locked to playing Universe 7 stuff. You can play like Charismatic Villain and things, but the Gohan can play things for 1 energy, and they have a lot of good 3-drops that they can play. But also not being tied to an energy requirement means you can play any of the Universe 7 Z battle cards, which just expounds on the deck building with these decks. So all of these could be meta. We'll just have to see if people give them a try. I think people should. I think these could be pretty interesting meta picks. I don't think any of these decks will be like top tier, but they could surprise people and make it into top cuts, and maybe win an event if people aren't prepared for them. That last part probably, I'm not super big on that, but there's always a possibility for it. We have SS4 Son Goku. We're gonna put this at the forefront of C. This is an incredibly aggro black deck. This deck actually can out-aggro Supreme Kai. The problem with it is it's a little more RNG based. Without Champa now, you don't have that double strike crit effect that you could do with the 3-drop Vegeta, which is what made this deck really crazy. You can main deck 2 or 3 Champas and swing with 2 or 3 Champa 25k double strike crits on turn 2, turn 3. Not to mention any other swings that you had. Without that, you really have to rely on your leader for double strike, and more likely that's going to get negated or blocked. So that, and also you can't get your Unison back if you mill it. So if you mill your Unison, you're kind of out of luck, and that takes away from a lot of your pushing potential. While as something like Supreme Kai has the ability of being able to do that at will, because you can just grab your Unison back from your dropper or your warp. This deck is definitely going to be a S tier. It is the aggro deck of the format, next to something probably like Sin. And it's good, man. It's a very, very good deck. Hopefully someone can pilot it better than I can, because for whatever reason my brain just I can't pilot Supreme Kai as well as I would want to. So, but this is definitely gonna be an S tier deck. But Goku here is gonna be C tier. Golden Frieza. So Golden Frieza I'm actually gonna put in. We're gonna put at the bottom of A tier. So this deck here is you know what? No, we're going to put it all the way down here in C tier. So the deck is not bad. Golden Frieza is not a bad deck. So just because it's an S tier doesn't mean it's bad. I just think right now, with Crimson getting banned, because the big thing of why Golden Frieza was, this is why I picked it as my dark horse for Worlds format, is because everyone was going to be playing Crimson. And Golden Frieza has a very good matchup into Crimson. However, Golden Frieza doesn't have a great matchup against Beerus, apparently, and I don't know what his Gamma's matchup's like, but at least in the Crimson, it does very well. Now with Crimson gone, we're back into this red format. I don't think Frieza can sustain enough to where it can be good. And also, there's just a better yellow deck that was printed, which is Majin Vegeta. So I think most people should just migrate to playing Majin Vegeta now. Even the Spirit Boost, or the Spirit Bomb Goku deck, this deck here, I think this deck, in theory, could be very, very good. I think it's right on the cusp of being meta. It's just going to depend on if people want to play this Goku or they want to play Vegeta. And that's going to be the big difference between these two. And if people want to play one of these decks over playing Trunks Cheetah, which is the best green, not the best green deck, but I mean it is the best green deck, right? But it is the best yellow deck in the format right now. I think I'm gonna put it right behind Gamma. Yeah, I think that's a good little fix right there. We have Gotenks. I think Gotenks is going to have no impact on the format. I don't think people are going to play this deck. I know it was played in Latin America, but they also don't have the ban list, and they don't have set 20, I think, to my knowledge. Or they didn't at the time of that tournament. And it's just not a good deck. Not a good deck. We have Halo Goku. It's a casual deck. I don't like this deck for the sheer fact that there's way too much sequencing that goes on with this deck, and that alone is just annoying. I just don't like this deck personally. But also I just think there's better blue options. I think Trunks is just a better blue deck that you would play. Although this can play the Goku Pikkon card very well, I just don't think it's enough to make it good. We have Hachiyak. Hachiyak is going to be an S tier deck. I don't care what anybody says. I'm actually going to put Hachiyak way up here. Hachiyak is incredible. With the newcomer cards that were printed, deck can play both of those. You have all the old stuff that you can play. You have the new Vegeta promo that's coming out. And you have Golden Cooler Seeker Rare, which solves one of the biggest problems for Hatch, which is playing against long decks like Android, Android 21, like Beerus, like Crimson. Any of these decks, even like Gogeta GT, being able to reduce your opponent's hand size to 5 and then proceed to swing as many times as cards you rip from their hand is incredible. Having barrier on that turn is incredible. Being able to wipe your opponent's board, ignoring barrier, is incredible. It's a very, very powerful card. I think Hatch is going to be will probably be the best control deck. The problem with Hatch is that people find it boring and people don't want to play it. I love this deck. I will probably always love this deck. It was my first deck that I ever played in the game. But it just got more support, man, and it's very good. I think it does very well against the majority of the format, and because we've moved to this best of one 40-minute round type of deal, I think Hatch is just going to be good. It's just a stall deck, but which has the potential of being able to kill you and just out resource you, which is just a fantastic combination. We have Assassin Hit. This deck could be pretty good. I'm going to put it in B tier. So this deck pressures for 15 on the front side and 20k on the back side, and has the ability of popping a double striker, a crit, or a blocker by pitching a card in the activate battle step. That is very good. If someone swings a Mira on you, or like the Mirasol from the skies, or they swing something on you, whether it's like they just hand dump on a 20 on a double strike battle card. This just having the ability to pop it is very good. I think also hits another character that will probably end up getting a Z leader or just some support in the future. But you can just play generically good red cards. Is it better than something like Pan for generic red? Probably not. But it's definitely something that I think people should visit and see if they would like it as a red deck. Next we have Janempa. Janempa's a casual deck. It does not mill anywhere near the amount that Sin does. Very, very slow mill. And since we've kind of gone back to this aggro format, I think these other decks can just beat Janempa down, and Janempa won't be able to do what it wants to do, and I don't think it's going to be on mill as quickly. Now, people do still play Janempa. It's kind of one of those decks, but at C tier, it's probably where it's going to stay. We have King Cold. I don't think this deck will have any impact on the format right now, unfortunately. Too many field spells, too many uncombable cards. It's not good. Magenta, it's another deck I don't think will have any impact on the format. The actual cards in this deck have more of an impact than the actual leader itself does. I actually would put this probably like right there. Yeah, it's probably good for that. Majin Vegeta, casual deck. It topped one of the events. I don't think we'll ever see it again unless people play it at locals. It's kind of it's a cool deck, but I don't think it's gonna do anything in the next format. Master Roshi, this is a deck that could theoretically be good. I'm actually gonna put it at the back here. I think this deck could be good. It's got a pretty interesting engine, being able to have a little bit of hand structure in there. You have the ability of making your leader a gigantic double striker with crit. That's very cool, and leaders that have double strike built into them are very good. So this deck could be good, but it just hasn't really been played. I think it's topped a few events in EU, but we haven't really seen that data translate into anything else in the world. So we'll put it in B tier for now. We have Pan. I think Pan is going to be an A tier deck. I think Pan's going to be all the way up here. I think Pan's going to be very good. Well, actually, I'll move this down a little bit because Sin does struggle a little bit with the aggro. We'll put it right here. Yeah. Pan, I think, will be a very good red deck again. The Gohan and the new Broly are just going to slide into this deck. You have those two plus the old Goten. This deck is incredibly, promoed out. It's going to be very good. So get ready for some more Pan, because we thought we had a lot last format, or the format previous, but now we're going to go right back to having Pan. We have Red Sin, and we'll just put Gogeta up here as well. We're just going to get those two out of here. We're going to put Gogeta right here, and we'll put Sin right behind Hatch. Hatch realistically actually beats all of these decks up here. Invoker's probably the hardest matchup for it. However, actually Trunks might be the hardest matchup for Hatchiyak, but Gogeta has kind of solidified itself right now as the deck that everyone kind of has to deal with. Sin's not as good as Gogeta, but I think these two decks have a little bit of a better matchup against this. That's why it's in third place. Hellfighter 17, casual deck. I think people will play it because it's a new deck. We'll put it like right there, but probably won't have too much impact on the format. 7Q, this is a good blue deck. I think this could actually be kind of up here somewhere. Probably like right here. I think this deck is better than Bulma. I think 7Q is actually a very good blue deck. Having a double strike crit on your leader, and if you can get the combo off where you slam Kaioken, you slam Turning the Tide, you actually have a better finisher in this deck than you did in Crimson, because you have a 30k crit, and then your leader's double strike crit, and you can kill somebody from 4 or 5 life with that, and that could be very, very deadly. Having a slowly like a hand control blue deck almost in a sense. So yeah, I think 7Q can be very good. We'll see if people end up playing it. We have Super Gohan. In theory, this could be a good blue deck. We'll see if people end up playing it. I don't like a deck where you have less than 3 or 4 cards in hand consistently throughout the game. There's some cute little turn 1, turn 2 stuff you can do with this deck where you just play out a bunch of dual attackers. Is it consistent? No. It's just kind of average. We have Soul Striker. I think people are gonna experiment with Soul Striker and just find out that there's just better decks. We're gonna just put it in no impact. People just need to let the deck die. Hopefully people stop playing it. Now here's one though. I think SS3 can be a good blue deck. So if you guys remember, SS3 was kind of the blue deck of choice before Nats that a lot of people were playing, or people were on until they found out that Crimson was just a better option. So I think some people will probably go back to playing SS3 a little bit. Probably not as much because people will end up probably just migrating to Gamma. But SS3 does have very, very good matchups against a lot of the stuff, right? You don't really care about Crown. Actually, you know what? Majin Buu's gone. Never mind. Deck's gonna go down here. Forgot. No Majin Buu. This deck loses a lot of its value. Never mind. Forgot Buu was gone. Prismatic Burst. Casual deck. Could be good. Not, it's, put it like right. Yeah, I'll put it like down here. Yeah. It's a cool deck. Hasn't really seen too much support. I'm sure it will at some point. Band-Aid likes to support these anniversary leaders, and they've given a lot of support to AOD, so I'm sure at some point Bardock will get his. SS4. I just think there's better blue options. Yeah, I just think there's better blue options. I think even Android 21's a better blue option than Vegeta. Put Vegeta there. Crimson Warrior. Okay, so Crimson Warrior, I think this deck is really good. I'm actually going to put it... I'm going to put it way up here. Yeah. So Crimson Warrior is essentially a black version of the blue Crimson deck. This deck can draw so many cards on the front side. You basically, you can run, just revolves around Saiyans, right? You can draw, what, 5 or 6 cards on your Awaken turn. You can play all the new Cumber stuff in the deck. You have the new Vegeta promo that's coming out. And then any other black support that comes out, this deck's just going to continue to get better. This deck is very, very good. This deck plays Evil Saiyan probably better than any other black deck in the game, next to, like, Kai. It's more of a mid-range deck because you do play with the Unison a little bit. But I think this deck is very, very good. If Cumber wasn't so fun, I would probably just be playing Trunks. But Cumber is just really just that much more fun right now. We'll probably go back to Trunks at some point to play it. But again, I want people to play this deck, but unfortunately I think people will just migrate to Cumber to play it, or Supreme Kai. They won't give Trunks a chance. I think people should. Trunks is a very good deck. People who have played the deck, people who have been, theory crafting the deck since, the Cumber stuff got announced, I'm sure they kind of feel the same way. So I'm going to put it in A tier. I'll move it down a little bit because it's only had one placing. So we'll move it down a little bit. And we'll actually move it behind Sin because Sin does beat Trunks. I should know. I played against like 2 or 3 of them at the event in Columbus that I topped with Sin. I ended up beating them. This deck just kind of murders Trunks, but every other deck, Trunks will play pretty good into. The Crimson, or not the Crimson matchup, but the Trunks' matchup with Gogeta and Sin is very interesting. It actually doesn't do bad against Gogeta, and Sin matchup is pretty 50-50. But now, again, with the new cards, it might be a little bit better. All right, what else we got? We got Starter Deck Frieza. Probably the best hand destruction green deck. However, it just kind of gets ran over. It's just a very slow hand destruction deck. You're probably killing your opponent more so because the matchup's just really boring because you're ripping cards out of their hand rather than you actually, advancing the game state a lot. Goku Trio. I think this deck is, in theory, very good. We'll probably put it right up here. It's got a lot of swings, a lot of potential, a lot of cycling. This deck kind of uses Baby Unison as a backup whenever their other Unison dies or people, they tend to black smoke it. So I think it could be pretty good. Actually, we'll put it in second place in B tier. We have Universe 3. This is probably the worst deck out of all of these. So we're just going to put it back here. Yeah, I don't think the deck's very good at all. I don't really have much to say about it, unfortunately. I'm sure maybe someone tops with it and proves me wrong. Maybe. I don't know. I just doesn't seem very good. At least right now, no impact in this current format. Vegito. This is the deck that has just surprisingly been very quiet. I think it's probably still meta relevant. We just haven't really seen it being played. So I'm sure people might, go back into playing it. So we'll see. But I think Vegeta could be pretty good. Videl, casual deck. I saw one person playing it, Nats, and I think it was just because it was such a surprise to people. But Black Smoke's just going to demolish this Unison, and without the Unison, this deck loses a lot of value. So we'll probably put it like right. We'll put it behind all the aggro decks. Put it above Halo Coup there. All right. Bobbity. I think Bobbity's not going to have much of an impact on the format, mainly because of how good the Majin Vegeta is. If Majin Vegeta wasn't in the format, it just wasn't existent, this would probably be a B tier deck, just because people would play it. But I don't think people are going to play the deck because of how much better Majin Vegeta is. We have Super Baby. This is a casual deck at the end of the day. Does a lot of things for free. You could brick really hard and just not do anything, or you can just pop off and kill somebody turn 2. Deck has a lot of aggression to it, but if this deck became popular, people would know that it's going to be played. People would just side in really hard negates, and this deck just kind of leads us to that. Bardock, this is another yellow deck that just doesn't seem to ever really go anywhere. People have played it. It's very fair. It's very similar to the Ape Coup deck. I think it's a little bit better than Ape Coup. It's got a little more aggro to it, but again, it just kind of falls short. And then we have Yellow Sin. So this is a deck that I think can be meta relevant. I'm going to put it way up here. So I think Yellow Sin is a deck that just people have stopped playing because they're just tired of playing it. I think Yellow Sin is still incredibly good. It just got another promo or a champ card that's coming out, which you might be able to go into off of the 1-drop. I don't remember, but I think it's probably a 19k, which I think this is 20, so you can't do that. But you can play this card for 2. This card's very good. Now this card gives you a mini 9-drop for any yellow deck, but you can play it in this deck too. So why not play it in this deck, right? So this is just another card that's going to make this deck good. I think someone's going to end up playing this deck maybe at the first event, and we're going to see Yellow Sin back in the format. And just a little theory of mine. So, but this is my list, guys. This is what I got here for you guys. So I'm sure some people would disagree with me in some capacity. That is okay, but share it with anybody, have a conversation about it. If I'm in a Discord with you, tag me. I'd like to talk to you guys about the list. If you guys want to tell me how bad the list is, that's fine too. But again, just remember, this is just for content, and this is just my opinion. You guys don't have to agree with it. So thank you guys again for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.